Hello, everyone. So, like a lot of us hardcore Sonic fans, I rushed right into Netflix and immediately binge watched the first 8 episodes of Sonic Prime. I decided to make this video to put out my initial thoughts on the show. First, I will start off with the plot, then some stuff about the voice, the animation, designs, and kind of like what I disliked, what I liked, and kind of just various stuff along that. This is a spoiler warning, so if you want to skip it, go to 3 minutes 46 seconds. Otherwise, here is the plot of the first 8 episodes. So the first episode involves Sonic facing Eggman and ultimately shatters the Paradox Prism. He ends up uh, going into New York City and comes across Tails. They meet up. Eventually, he gets to meet the uh, Egg Eggman Council, and from there, they test his powers before kind of an explosion where Shadow briefly appears. Then, as you go into like the second and third episodes, you have Knuckles, Rouge, Amy all break Sonic out. They fight against the Council of Eggman, and then Sonic gets the Paradox Prism, and then from there he gets transported to Jungle World. As you go into the fourth episode, the Jungle World, Sonic slowly works on building a relationship with these new friends. There's various flashbacks and stuff. That Sonic gets the Paradox Prism, and ultimately he gets sent back to New York City. When you get into the fifth and sixth episodes, back in New York City, uh, Sonic basically has to fight along with his new friends against the Council of Eggmen. Sonic's friends keep thinking that he is bad, and Sonic has to keep showing them that he's actually a good guy and he's on their side. Eventually, Tails and the Paradox Prism eventually gets captured by the Eggman. As you go into episode 7, there's a little more backstory of Shadow, and Sonic uh, goes through New York City, where he's transported from there into the pirate world, and he lands on Knuckles' ship and eventually uh, basically takes it over. And then it gets real interesting when Rusty Rose and the robots end up showing up on the ship. And I mean, that seems to show that the Council has found a way of using the Paradox Prism. And then as you get into the 8th episode, Sonic and his friends team up and eventually defeat Rusty Rose and some of the robots. And at the end of the 8th episode, Knuckles gets the Paradox Prism, and then Sonic happens to touch it, and when he does, it creates a bit of an explosion, and Sonic gets sent back into the Shadowverse, where again Shadow appears, and they start to fight, and then it kind of comes to an end of the episode, kind of leaving us with a bit of a cliffhanger, but that's kind of how Netflix shows typically are. So when you look at the characters, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the voice. I mean, how did they sound? I mean, that is very important. And I think that all the characters sounded really good. I mean, especially Sonic, because Devin Mack did an absolutely outstanding job. Sonic sounded really good. It kind of reminded me a bit of like Sonic Adventure, somewhere along that lines in terms of how he sounded, especially being how funny and charming he seemed to be throughout all the different episodes with how he sounded. Also, the design was really good of several of these characters, especially considering the fact that in each different episode there were more and more different versions of the characters, and they all seem to be designed pretty well. I especially like Tails, because, well, he's got all those extra tails there. Very interesting concept to add. And then also, even like the shirt that he's wearing, very interesting detail. It just looks kind of like almost like a punk look or something along those lines. I think he fits into the New York City where Sonic initially meets him very well. And also, Sonic, he also looks really good. Kind of similar to like the modern Sonic, but maybe just a little bit different. Kind of an interesting take on it, and he looks really good. So, Sonic Prime did have a tendency to feel a little depressing, especially in like New York City. I feel like the episodes could have been a little bit longer because just as you're getting to the real meat of everything, some portions do feel a little bit rushed just because I guess they have to squeeze each thing into like 20-minute episodes. And, the different characters all being in those different universes, it takes a little time to get used to the different types of characters and like the different rather tales in different universes or like the Knuckles being pirates. You kind of need time to understand those characters a little bit more, and there's not that much time just to understand them better. I felt like Shadow didn't get nearly as much time as he deserved. I mean, the edginess, he didn't really get a chance to understand him too much because most of the time was just going through after everything was broken, and his time was very limited. Knuckles seemed to be pretty good, especially when he was a pirate. That was one of my favorite parts. I really liked that in the beginning. Tails, honestly, was like all shy and wanted to stay away from everybody. When Sonic came along, he actually kind of wanted to fight him. He wanted nothing to do with him. But as Sonic tried to explain a little bit, tried to calm him down, Tails actually started to got a little more interested. And this was the ongoing theme throughout. That in the beginning, when Sonic was meeting these characters that he knew, it was like they didn't care for him. But over time, he actually convinced them a little bit and tried to explain to them that he was actually their friend. I really liked, especially that both Tails and Knuckles, when Sonic first meets these alternative versions, that there's flashbacks to like the past. And these flashbacks, I mean, throughout all the episodes, there's a lot of really great flashbacks, and I really like that. But those in particular, it just brings back Sonic trying to bring back memories as he's not really aware that these are completely different characters that he's never actually met before. Some of the other characters, like Rouge, she seemed to be like a leader and was very smart in many cases as part of like a resistance in the New York City along with Knuckles. And it honestly this resistance reminded me of Sonic Forces for some reason, which was kind of interesting. Uh, Amy, I mean, it felt like she was more of a villain more of the time because of the Rusty Rose. So there's not too much more to that. Big barely was in the episode too much. As for Sonic, he seemed to be interpreted very well. He kind of reminded me like of the uh, movie version a little bit, a little childish, and the way that he thinks of things, but certainly his feeling of friendship and wanting to be interested in the belonging of everybody else, wanting to understand them. He honestly just opened up with the welcome arms, really, with how much he cared about these characters, even though he seemed to think that they were his friends, although they were actually an alternative version. I mean, overall, I mean, there's not that much negative stuff I can say about this show. I mean, everything was really good about this television show. It was certainly better than Sonic Boom, and to be honest, I think this show could rival Sonic X in terms of how great this show is overall. I think that there's a lot of serious potential for this show, and all the different things that they've done. And just overall, I thought it was just really great show. And I am definitely looking forward to whenever eventually when they have more episodes, whenever that will be. But definitely, this was a really good Sonic Prime, very good television show. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and remember, you gotta go fast.